Hi guys, this is my review of Shatter Me by Tahira Mafi. I've butchered the author's name, I apologise for that. Okay, so this novel is a dystopian, futuristic, supernatural romance shindig mashup, and it concerns our protagonist here, Julliette, who is 17 years old and the novel opens with her being in solitary confinement. Whether it's a prison or a mental asylum, it's never really clarified, or a mix of both. And her touch is fatal. She's unable to have physical contact with other human beings because she makes them very ill, and they suffer an enormous amount of pain, and depending on how long she holds on for, they die. And no one knows why. It's always been the case ever since she was an infant, and her parents and schoolmates and just people in her social community in general have shunned her. Her parents were the ones who put her into confinement 3 years ago. So yeah, it opens, the novel says that she's been locked up for 264 days, and she hasn't spoken in 264 days of isolation, and it's been 6,336 hours since she's touched another human being. So she's going marginally insane, as is understandable at the opening of the novel, and one thing I noted that was really cool, the kind of narrative voice of Julliette was very, very strong throughout the book, and that was both a good thing and a bad thing, and I'll get to that in a minute. But something that was cool in terms of the structure of how things were worded and whatnot, there's lots of scribbled lines throughout the book, and Julliette keeps a little notepad on her person so that she can write down thoughts and feelings. And it's as though her mind is also acting like a notepad, so, you know, you get her conscious thoughts and then her subconscious things are often just scribbled out, so they're contradictory to what she says to people, or their secret thoughts that she won't share. So this one I thought was really effective. It's just, I am insane. I am not insane, rather. Scribbled a million times. That was cool. And into her solitary confinement comes a lad named Adam. And Adam has some up and down story arcs going on, and things keep changing regarding him, and he was fairly okay. I didn't hate Adam, which was refreshing for me. Usually hate the male protagonists in YA. And of course they develop a romance, and the romance does happen very quickly, as it is wont to do in any YA paranormal, but there is some justification as to how quickly it moves. And I didn't mind their relationship. It didn't get on my nerves too much. Yeah, for the most part I thought they were paired pretty well together. We have really just one main supporting character, I guess. Well, he's the antagonist of the piece. His name's Warner, and he's a young man who's quite messed up and is fairly brutal and violent and manipulative and all such things, and I just found him a very delicious character to read. I think because I'm messed up psychologically, probably, I tend to find villains more interesting, usually because you know that they're not meant to be likable, and you know, you don't necessarily have to connect with them or anything, so you're free of that burden of having to like them, and so you can just accept them as what they are, and then, you know, spend the time hopefully finding new and interesting things and depth that you wouldn't have foreseen, and all. I don't know, you can have more fun, I think, reading villains, spending time with them. That's why I think a lot of actors like to play the bad guys in plays or films. They're usually media roles, I think, and I don't know. With good guys, I feel like I'm forced to like them from the outset, and usually with me, I don't. And it's not on purpose. I don't mean to be contradictory. It's just a thing with me because I'm weird. But yeah, I don't know. Villains are more fun, and Warner was pretty cool in his own completely sadistic way, and I really liked the weird relationship dynamic between him and Julliette. And there's the possibility of some more stuff going on there. I'm sure they'll probably try and make it into a love triangle in the future. It sort of was in this, but not really. And I just look forward to seeing where his storyline goes in the future. Okay, so also I want to hopefully see in future installments a wider portrayal of the landscape, the exterior of what Earth has become in this universe, because it's a very, very bleak portrayal of our future, really. And you're only really given hints of it because everything's so contained in this book, so I'd like to be able to get a wider view of what's going on out there. Yeah, so anyway, my main gripe with this book wasn't the plot or the pacing or the structure or anything, it was the writing style. And usually I try and not be a judgmental cow, although I'm sure that sounds surprising. I try not to judge too heavily on writing style because I'm not a good writer, so who am I to judge? I'm just a reader. But when it's glaringly obvious for whatever reason, then I just get affected by it, and that it makes me conscious of it, and the writing style of this really did that for me. There is so much purple prose, like hyperbole and really exaggerated metaphors and similes used continuously. Lots of animated, flowery language, and sometimes it worked really effectively. I remember like one sentence was something along the lines of, I wanted to wrap my fist around the possibility of him understanding me, or something along those lines, and I thought that was kind of cool. You know, occasionally it worked well, and for the most part it was all to do with Julliette's internal monologues, so whenever she had a moment to reflect, you knew you were in for some purple prose. It was okay sometimes, but especially from about the middle onwards, it just got so heavy-handed, and it was continuous. It wasn't just every now and then for a nice treat. It was all the damn time. So there was stuff like, his eyes are a midnight moment filled with memories, the only windows into my world. I want to wash my soul in the bottomless blue of his eyes. I'm licked by a million flames and swallowing a million more. I mean, it was good and effective because it showed, I guess, the way in which, just in terms of thinking and how she viewed things, that Julliette stood apart because she'd been an outsider and isolated and considered a freak all her life, so it changed, I suppose, the way she perceives things. And that was kind of cool, but it's just so constant, and it just got ridiculous a lot of the time, and that really stood out for me, and it jarred the effect of enjoying a lot of the stuff, especially the relationship between Adam and Julliette, because that's how she described all their interactions and how she felt about him. It made me feel nauseous a lot of the time, even though, you know, how they responded to one another and what they got up to in their conversations weren't bad. I wish there was more dialogue in the book, because whenever the dialogue was, you know, going at rapid fire or whatever, there was no time to reflect, so the flowery prose wasn't there. That's why I like the ending, like, you know, the last, I don't know, 50 pages or so, because the pace really kicked up and there was just a lot of action, so there was no time to have to pause and reflect and, you know, be all sentimental. But yeah, it was the way in which things were worded just really got to me after a while. It was very beautiful. I'm sure lots of people loved it, but for me it was just too much of a good thing, and I felt like I was wading through mud trying to get back to the characters and back to what was going on. So yeah, but I'm sure plenty of people adored it, so it's just me. But I'll probably give it 3.5 stars, I guess, out of 5, and I do want to read the next installment, see what happens, because I'm curious. I'd like to see what's going on with Warner. So yeah, that was Shatter Me by Chihira Mappy, and 3.5 stars.